We're back in the engine room of the Silverton. Let's get the oil changed. Alright, so engine, warmed it up. Got the oil at least warm, not scalding hot. Good enough. Got my Amazon special water pump, which I'm using for oil. Suction line right to the dipstick and discharge into the bucket. I'm going to pump a little bit out, then I'll take oil samples for both port and starboard. But that's really all it is for this boat. To get the oil out, you just pump it through the dipstick because the dipstick actually goes to the bottom of the oil pan, about where the drain plug would be. Vacuum pump, way easier than trying to do it by hand or anything like that. So let's get this pumped out, take oil samples, and I'll show you how I do the oil filters. For a very inexpensive little pump from Amazon, which I'll link in the comments below, or the description rather, I mean, it moves a good amount of oil, you know, until it falls out of the bucket and goes, you know, everywhere. Not bad. Not bad for 20 bucks. A whole lot cheaper than the West Marine oil pump setup. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys my filter trick, which seems to help make less of a mess. Just need one FD, gallon size freezer bag, what have you. Open it up, ready to go. You're gonna start by hoping that the filters aren't stuck tight. Nope, pretty good. Okay, good start. Take the hefty gallon size bag and just hold that up there. Unscrew them, which catch all the oil in the bag. Even though I still have a mat down there, I want to get as much in the bag as I can. And still hold it from the bottom because the bag is not really meant to hold a whole filter. And just twist. Twist away. And at some point, the filter is going to drop and you got to play catch, and make sure you're ready for that. Keep slipping in the bag. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it saves on the mess. Caught all that oil instead of having to clean it up down off the pad. I only have a drip from the second filter and a little drip from the first filter, but go ahead and dump that out into the bucket, get as much oil out as you can, and recycle the oil filter, and that's it. Okay, oil filters are off and placed in the recycling bin. I'm going to pre-fill the new filters because that seems like the right thing to do. While that's happening, I'm going to let the little pump try to get the last little bit of oil out to change the most I possibly can. You know, it has drips to a small solid stream, so it's still trying to get something as everything drains back down to the pan. You'll never get it all, but I try to do the best I can with that. So I'm going to get these filters pre-filled slowly but surely, spin them back on, and I'll be ready to fill the engine back up with oil. So each of these filters takes about a quart for a total of 2 quarts of oil. So if I put these on dry, I feel like that would be a good bit of time before it picked up oil, filled the filters, and put it back through the engine. So pre-filling, easy. You know, it just takes a little bit of time for it to soak down in there. And yes, I am doing all of this inside the boat because it's really hot outside. So I have to be a little careful with that. I got some cardboard down and, you know, some oil spill mats. But I do want to make a note that I know a lot of bigger boats, even bigger Silvertons in general, have a oil exchange or oil pump system built in. Super nice. You click a button, you put the hose in a bucket, it pumps it out. Just from my opinion, the bigger boat that I take care of as well has that system, and it has the option to send it backwards and pump it back into the engine. I personally don't like that. I like using the drain lines as drain lines and using the oil fill on the engine as the oil fill. Yeah, I know that sucks when you've got 10, 20, 30 gallons of oil. You know, for me, this is 7 quarts in these engines. In the big boat, it's 6 gallons. And even putting 6 gallons in by hand using the 1-gallon jugs isn't too bad. So if you can help it, I definitely recommend putting the oil in through the oil fill instead of using the exchange flush system to pump the oil back into the engine. That's just me. Another pro tip, if you're wearing bitch mittens, I mean gloves, it helps if these are clean of oil the best you can to help get a grip and spin that filter on. If it's all oily, it makes it that much harder. The rest of the video that I didn't film was really just filling it up with oil. In my particular case, the pan was a 5-quart pan. It got 5 quarts of oil. The filters each got pre-filled, and we're pretty much good to go on the dipstick. Now, something I do want to note, because this was an issue for me, the dipstick that came with the engine was incorrect. The acceptable range was here, but 5 quarts was up here because the engine's on an inclination and it wasn't even close to being in the right range. So I drained the pan, you know, however many oil changes ago, down to as absolutely nothing as I could get. I poured in 4 quarts. I let that sit for a while. I came back and pulled the dipstick a couple times, wiped it off, checked it, and got a good 4-quart mark. Boom, cut that, scribed that into the dipstick, and then I came back and did that again with 5 quarts, poured another quart in for a total of 5, let it drain down, check the dipstick a dozen times, and scribe a mark for 5 quarts. And I can't explain how incorrect the dipstick was, because it was meant for an engine sitting at 0 degrees, not for an engine sitting at, let's say, 10 degrees. Some manufacturers give you a dipstick based on the inclination, so on and so forth. This one did not. When I thought I was in the acceptable range, I was way low. This is only a 5-quart pan. This is not very much oil. And the acceptable range on the dipstick was probably in the maybe 3-quart range. So I was way low, and now I've got it right. So that is a very important thing to look at, especially if your dipstick didn't have any indication that it needed to be adjusted for inclination of the engine, because most boats have some sort of degree down, you know, aft for the prop shafts. Some have a down angle transmission, but most gas motors, they're hanging down like this. So that was a big thing. But anyway, I appreciate y'all sticking around this long and watching me ramble on changing the oil. I know it's nothing crazy or nothing special, but it's a part of the maintenance we got to do to keep the boat running as good as we can. So thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.